Hi guys, Jason here from Trojan Photography, and today we're going to go through a tutorial on how to get something a little bit different. So I was at Sydney Motorsport Park taking some nice shots of some drifting I was watching and doing a bit of panning. If you want to check out more about panning and how to do panning with the settings and the technique of it, check out the video on my channel. It's a very easy step-by-step guide of the settings and techniques. So panning just creates something like this. You get a nice blurred background. And so I was there all day and I was taking these shots and they're great, but I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to do something a bit different and show people out there something that no one else is showing out there from this event. So everyone was just taking sort of panning shots or still shots, so I thought, why not do something different? And I got a good response from it, so I'm going to show you how to do it with a nice simple tutorial. So this is the view I was looking at. Now I had a nice long lens on before. I was taking the panning shots as we go around the corner. So I thought, okay, let's try something different. Put the wide angle lens on. This is the Canon 16 to 35. Doesn't really matter what lens it is if it's a wide angle lens. So 16 to 18, if you're going full frame, 24's a nice wide angle. So this is sort of the view we're working with. So from that, we will eventually get to pictures like this. Okay. So nice, what I've done is multiple images stitched together, so they're the exact same cars in the shot, stitched into one. So let's get into it. So we open up Lightroom, and this is the scene, and what I've done, standing there, I rested my elbows on the fence. Now I should have probably had a tripod, doesn't really matter. We're going to fix that up and Photoshop will help us with that and it'll bring it all together, so it's not a problem at all. It's no steps extra required. So I've had in motor drive, so continuous burst mode, so my camera goes at 3.4 frames a second, takes 6 shots before it starts to write to the card, and that's when I have to stop because the buffer's full. So you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you get the car as it's moving around the track. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to work with this first image here, and from there we'll synchronize all the settings across into it. So up here in the histogram you can see all the shots were shot in manual. Manual's not really hard to use, you just get the right exposure on it, and that's going to help you a lot because you want it the exact same aperture, the exact same shutter speed and everything, so it makes it easier in this, so there's no difference in it. So ISO 100, 16mm, so I was shooting as wide as the lens would go. f4.5, 1/800th of a second, so zoom in, it is sharp, so that's fine. Okay, so let's start editing. First thing I'll do, I'll go down, enable profile correction, so that's just taking out that distortion. You can see that. It's not a huge change, but it's something I like to do. Go back up. So let's go into the contrast. Bring the contrast up a little bit, just get a little bit difference. Zoom in on the car now, because that's where the main exposure I want to get. So it's a bit overexposed there, so bring the highlights down, bring the shadows up a bit so we don't have as much blue. So the reason I've got that blue and red, I've got up here the shadow clipping and the highlight clipping, so that will just show up the red if it's overexposed, so that's pure white, and the black, the pure black is shown by the blue dots. So we'll bring up clarity a bit, bring down the blacks, bring the whites across, zoom out, have a look at that. That's nice, got a little bit more punch in it, nice around here, you can see those tire marks. Might just knock vibrance down a bit because sometimes the red just seems a bit too overpowering in these shots with the Canon. And temperature, I'm pretty happy with it, but maybe a little bit of yellow. Yeah, a bit of yellow just to warm it up a bit. Okay, we can zoom in. There's a little bit, but it's at ISO 100, so that's okay. So from there, we go down the bottom. We've got that first one selected. Hold Shift, and then left click across on the last one. Come over here to the synchronize setting, sync, click sync. All of these are set. Lens profile correction we want on. So anything you've pretty much used, the black clipping, white clipping, shadows, highlights, we've used all those, and you want to make sure they're set so they go across and they actually synchronize all of them, otherwise we'll have problems. So synchronize up here, that's done, that's simple. So we'll export it across to a folder, so Control Shift E brings up the export window. Choose a folder. Yep, this folder's good. Export. We'll overwrite that because that's just an old one I had in there, so that's not a problem. So we'll just export. It'll just take a little while. There are 6 images, but it's not a big thing. It's almost done. So we'll close this up. 83%. Task complete. Too easy. Close these. So let's open Photoshop up. Okay, so Photoshop. So in Photoshop, go File, down to Automate, Photo Merge, and this is why I'm saying it doesn't really matter if you're just hand holding it, because you'll see what it does. Wrong folder. So select those. There's the 6 images we had. Go OK. Blend images together, that's what we want. Vignetting remove, we don't need that. We don't need that. We'll go OK. So what Photoshop's going to do, it's going to bring it in piece by piece, and what it's going to do, it's going to merge it together. This is the same function used for panoramics. This is the same spot, and what you'll see when we start editing, some of the frames might be a little bit skewed off. It doesn't really matter because it's going to bring it all in. It's going to line it all up so all the lines of the track are perfectly in line. So let's just go through this. We'll skip this bit. There we go. Didn't take long at all. So over here what we've got looks like one image. Over here we've got my layers. If we take off a layer, you can see it's using parts of the image to make up other bits. So each image contributes a bit. That's simple. But this is what we don't want. This has got layer masks. We don't want the layer masks right now. We'll use them later. So just click it, drag it into the bin. All the layer masks of all 6. Simple, easy. Alright, so click the little eyes, remove them. So that's the first image. You want them in reverse. So the top image is that one, and we work through it. Now you can use this for everything. It's not just car photos. At the very end of the video I show you some other shots I've done which aren't car photos, and you can see how you can get real creative with it. So what we want to do, we want to click on this first one, or the second one up, come down the bottom, this little rectangle with a circle in it, that's the layer mask. Click on that. We've added a layer mask. So let's zoom in on the picture. Then we go B for brush. We'll select round brush. We want it about 75% hardness, so there's my brush tablet. Go about 75%. You don't want it as hard as possible. You want about 75 to do this initial part, and we'll work from there. Now you just use the little colon keys to make them smaller or bigger. Want it smallish. What we're going to do, we're going to brush around the car. So what you want to do, you want to have it as black brush, and what you'll see on here, we're on this layer, we're not on the picture layer, we're on the mask layer. We'll take off this bottom layer just so you can see what's happening. So as I draw over it, it's erasing it. It's not removing it, it's hiding it. So that's what the mask does. It's going to help you hide it. Now we'll quickly go, so we'll just brush around the car, go on the edges. Now the reason I've done 75% is because I don't want it a real hard line. Depending on what you're doing, and you'll see in the pictures after, some of them I have gone around with a hard line, but because some of the smoke from the drifting overlaps a bit, it looks a bit more effective if there's a little bit of smoke. It makes it look a bit more realistic. And a lot of people have thought it's 5 or 6 different cars drifting side by side, 5 or 6 identical cars, and that's pretty cool when people start to think that. So I just put that other layer in. You can see up here I have missed a bit. You can get a bit closer. You don't want to go over the edges, but it doesn't matter too much. So we'll just fast forward through this until I've done this whole car bit, and then we'll get back into it. Okay, so you can see I've gone over the whole car, and you got this smoke, so that's from the layer underneath, see that? So we're just revealing the layer underneath, hiding this. So what you want to do from here, bring the brushes back over so you can see what we're doing. I want to bring the hardness of this brush all the way down to about 25-ish. And with it, zoom out a bit, make the brush a bit bigger. Just sort of go through this smoke, and you want to make it big, you want to make a soft brush because you don't want it to look too artificial. So I'm just going to brush away, and what you want to do, you want to be removing the stuff you want to keep. So when I do that, to move the screen, you just hold down the space bar and you can click away, move it. And if you find it hard, like, we'll zoom out and see, you can see where the car was, but it's really hard to tell where I've rubbed out here or where it is. So we'll take off that back layer and you can sort of see that. It's going to look a bit patchy, but we'll fix that up later. Go up here. Doesn't bother me, I just like to keep it, it doesn't matter. It's just a very rough thing, make it a bigger brush. We're down at 25% hardness, so it's okay. Like that. Alright, so that should be good. So zoom out a bit. So you can see it. Make sure this is selected. Go Control I to invert that layer. And there we go. So now we've got 2 cars in the picture. Zoom in a bit. See, it's a little bit rough here, so we'll click back on here, get the brush, bring the brush over, bring this back up to about 80% on the hardness. Make it a smaller brush. Oop, wrong one. So when you want to bring it back in, change it to a white. And we'll just slowly go over the hood here. Bring it too much. Control Z will undo what you've gone over. There we go. I'm liking that a bit better. Just get rid of this. I know that's the mirror, but I didn't like it. That's alright, so let's zoom out a bit. The smoke looks okay here, so you can see where we've gone a little bit too much. So make a nice soft brush, bring it in a bit, see that? So you can either bring in a bit more, take out a bit more, and we're just trying to bring it in. So that's how you get it in. So we'll go into a little fast forward mode, you can watch me do the rest, and we'll do a little wrap up at the end. So let's go. and here it is. So I've gone through it all as you could have watched through that fast forward motion. Each layer here has the car, so you can take off each car. You can see what it's done. It's taken off a bit of the smoke, taken off the car, with the base image holding most of the detail. So from here, if you want, push C, we'll just crop it down, make a nice panoramic shot. And no, I don't think I want it too wide, just something nice, bit of gap there, a little bit in there, V, and there we are. Nice panoramic shot. You can flatten it out, you can save it as a JPEG and go from there. So that's the tutorial. You can do it with multiple things. If you keep the camera in the same position, it works best. You can see I was just zooming in, zooming out, colouring in the car to remove it, go Control I or invert to invert the layer mask, and then the car appears. And so here are two other shots I've done. These are both from the Sydney Easter show. So the first one's one of the wood choppers. You can see I've sat there, I did the same thing, just held it as still as I could and let Photoshop bring it together and merge it properly. And with this one it's a bit more complicated because you had to layer it over each other so it looked correct. So when he's in the background a bit more, you had to make sure he was behind the other picture of himself in front. And then we've got this one as well. So this is motorbikes jumping at the Easter show. Just getting the layering right, colouring in the part of the bike you want to keep, bringing it through. So it's not too hard. So I hope you enjoy that tutorial. If you've got any comments or questions, please just leave them below. Don't forget to subscribe. You can find me on the website at trojanphotography.com or find me on Facebook, facebook.com/trojanphotography, and don't forget to give us a like. So thanks very much, guys. See ya.